Hi, I'm Lori McDermott. I am with thewifeexpert.com, and I have an interview set up, and it happens to be 100 degrees in Los Angeles, and I can't find coolness, so I happen to be sitting in my garage on one of my kids' skateboards with a bowl of ice in case I start really sweating, a cold pack, actually a couple of them, because I'm so hot. So bear with me. I'm going to get through this because I've got someone I've been dying to talk to who is not going to show her face. That's the problem I have. My goal in talking to all of you is to make sure I'm giving you everything that you need, tools, sharing with what other people are going through, the struggles, the positives, the ups, the downs, so that you feel you have enough tools to do this in your own life. So that's my goal. So when I have someone I want to talk to, I actually have to convince them, please, come on, please, I want you to jump on my show and share with other people so that other people have hope. And as you know, you would say, well, what's the big deal? Well, what's the big deal is the person who's going to speak, they might not want to share stuff about their life because they're afraid their spouse will hear about it. So I get that. So today's guest is going to be not speaking, or you'll be able to see her face, which is fine is if you're watching this on Apple, but if you're here on YouTube, which very few people come, so this isn't going to matter. So the other thing I need to tell you guys, I'm sponsored by this company called Somvi. They do bedding. You have to have a really good night's sleep in order to be successful in your day and in order to be a good spouse. So make sure you get good sleep. So if you're in need of bedding, I always have super specials. These people are so great. They sponsor the show and they tell me when there's deals. So if you're signed up for my website, I will let you know when they have a special and you can get some products, blah, blah, blah. It's really fun. And I love their stuff because I like sleeping on a cloud. But I think that's important. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to bring on my guest. And remember, this isn't her name, but we're going to call her Mrs. Left. So get it? Mrs. Left. And we're going to walk through her story. But I just want, this is kind of like a pun on words because Mrs. Left was actually left by her husband a little while ago. But she is Mrs. Right. And he just figured that out. And he's kind of coming back and poking his nose in, even though they got divorced about 6 months ago in February. And right now it is September, one of the hottest days in Los Angeles. So if you see me rubbing ice on my forehead during this or sweating, I'm sorry. Anyway, okay. Mrs. Left, are you there? Are you ready? So I would like to bring on my guest right now. Remember, I told you her name is Mrs. Left, which I think is hilarious because Mrs. Left was left by her husband a little while ago. And while Mrs. Left, get it, she was left by her husband, which is a complicated way of saying that he's an idiot, but that's another story. So she was alone, and just recently he's decided that he might want to come back. So technically she's actually Mrs. Right. Now, what made him come back? We're going to find out. But the point is, I want you guys to have hope. Because when they leave, if you are the greatest thing out there, which means you're kind and you're just living your best life and you're not being mean or rude, they do come back. And so this woman was actually divorced. Like papers, goodbye. And he poked his head back in. So let's chat with Mrs. Left. And oh, one more thing. I just want everyone to know. When I work my butt off to get you guys onto the show, if you know anyone that wants to talk to me, please share that so I can have more Mrs. Lefts. Anyway, hi, Mrs. Left.
Hi, Laurie. How are you?
Good. How are you? Okay, so let's walk through it. Thank you. So that's why we're in disguise today, is because not everybody wants their face seen after they've gone through this. And, they want to protect their husband, their wife, and they don't want anyone else to see who they are and what their story is without identifying their face. So they're okay talking, but I get it. You want to stay private. Makes perfect sense.
Thanks.
So we're just going to imagine you, this big, blonde, beautiful, just kidding. Doesn't matter. Okay, so tell us what happened. Let's start when you first met your husband.
Okay, so
what year was that?
Going a long way back. Well, I guess not so long as many of your wives. We met when we were in our early 20s at work, so about 9 years ago.
Okay. Okay, wow. And then when did you guys get married?
We got married like 5 years ago. So we were together, a few years, very happy, and then decided to get married. And we actually moved out to like the Middle East for some time, and that was like a really great period of our lives. And I was part of like some of the difficulties in getting my head around what happened over the past year was the fact that for so much of the time it seemed like we were really happy. So I think it's something that's probably I have a lot in common with the wives you talk to.
Tons. So you guys actually moved to a different country.
We moved.
What country?
We moved to the UAE.
What is that?
United Arab Emirates.
Okay, sorry, we're Americans. Not everyone knows that. Okay, wow, that must have been amazing. So it was just the two of you.
Just the two of us, alone.
In another country.
Exactly.
That builds such bonds.
Absolutely, like it builds an incredible bond between us. Like we moved out there for his job. I quit my job back in Europe and like moved with him. We didn't know anybody out there. It was like just totally us. And we had to build a whole life out there, and we were there for a total of about 4 years. So it was a really like meaningful step in both of our lives, I guess. But it was very shortly after we moved back from the Middle East, back to Europe, back to our like home country, that things fell apart extremely quickly.
What happened?
So all of a sudden, he just became very distant. He started going out all night. Like he would turn up at like 4, 5 a.m. in the morning when I'd been ringing him all night, being like, where are you? I didn't know if he'd been hit by a bus. I didn't know if he was just cheating on me. I had no idea. And it would just send me into just complete like distress and turmoil. And at this point, I hadn't found your program. So I was just like begging him, crying, asking 1,000,001 questions. And his response was actually, at the beginning, it was very emotional. Like he would be crying too and be like, I don't know why I'm doing this to you. I don't know what's going on. I think I'm depressed. I think I need to take some antidepressants to see the doctor and all the rest of it. And I was very much like supportive. And I sort of said, maybe you need to see a therapist, and like we can work on these things together and see what's going on. And then one day he just turned around and said, no, I've actually thought about it, and the problem is you. The problem is just the marriage. I just need some time away. And he just packed his things and just left. And I'm sure many of your wives can empathise with like the feelings that you go through when that happens.
Feelings, that's like a death.
Yeah.
That moment right there when you say he left, that's like, it's like having someone die.
Absolutely, because the other thing with him, you think when you're married, there's always going to be a period, if someone's unhappy, there's going to be a period of discussion or of some kind of reconciliation or some kind of working on it. But there was nothing. When he decided that I was the problem or the marriage was the problem, he was just gone. Like and any attempts to contact him, it pushed him further away. He just wouldn't reply. And it's so difficult when you go from a situation where that is the person you trust most in the world. That's the person you turn to when things go wrong. And yet suddenly they've become like the cause of all of your pain. And the levels of betrayal, the levels of like just disrespect as well, like in terms of, just not replying to messages or just leaving you hanging or anything like that. And then it's, also I guess it's that thing where he would always be the kind of guy who'd be like, drive safe or text me when you get there or something like that when you are just going out on a little trip or whatever, to the fact that to being in a position where you could have been hit by a bus and he would not know because he has not contacted me in months. So how?
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh.
It literally is. It's like complete bewildering that somebody you would have trusted with your life. Well, they couldn't care less if you've been hit by a lorry. So it's
Laurie is a truck.
Yes,
so
sorry. It's a truck.
It's my name as well, but yes, Laurie is a truck in English.
Exactly.
But yes,
So, yeah.
hit by a truck. He didn't even care.
He didn't care.
And by by then you were married, how many years was it? 5,
By
6?
then, no, it would have been, no, shorter than that. We would have been married 4 or 5 years, yeah.
Right. And that's when you called me.
Exactly. So,
And what did I tell you?
so this wasn't really, it was a really interesting one because, this all happened when we were in our early 30s. So I think you told me that I've got choices basically, because while you stand for marriage and stand for reconciliation, you don't want to set yourself up for a future where this is going to happen again. Or like, I think you explained it in a way that stuck with me quite strongly, where you said some of these guys, it's almost like the wiring is a bit loose. And I think that really summed him up very well, that the decisions he was making and the idea that his depression and his problems and him going out drinking loads and everything was somehow my fault was just, it was clearly like some wiring was loose, because it just made no sense. And all of his family were confused, and he just threw everybody's lives into turmoil. And it was so brutal in so many ways, because like, we are relatively young, and the whole reason to move back from the Middle East to home was to be close to family so we could start a family of our own. So you imagine me there being like, right, like, I'm going to have my first baby. We hadn't bought a house yet, so we were out house hunting. It all happened at that time, and maybe it's connected. Maybe he panicked about like the proper commitment. Like, yes, we were married, but we weren't fully tied, in the sense we didn't have kids, hadn't got a house together, and maybe that was part of what triggered him to go over the edge in terms of stress, and I don't know what was going on in his mind, but like, absolutely brutal timing for me, because there I am thinking, this is the guy I've been with since I was in my early 20s. We're all ready for the next chapter of our lives, like kids and a family, and there he goes, disappears in a puff of smoke. And so a death is the right way to explain it, because he's there 1 minute being the guy you trust and you have your whole life planned out, and then the next minute he's gone. And it's not just gone like, he'll answer messages or we'll see each other and he's saying it's not really working. No, it's gone like, he says I'm leaving, and you do not hear from him, you do not see him ever again, according to what he says. And that lasted for nearly a year. So it's only very recently that he sort of
Okay, so don't go there.
Okay, we won't go there yet.
We're gonna get there. So when you called me, so I have so many wives that will call me and say, what do you think's going to go on with my marriage? What's my chances? What's my this? Mm-hmm. And when I tell them I have a lot of hope for them, because they have kids, they've been married 20 years, they sound coachable, they say to me, you say that to everybody. And I say, no, I don't. And you're the perfect example of someone I told, here's what your future is going to look like. And you decided to do what?
Yeah, so I think...
Because it's in your hands. I can guide you as much as I want, but it's your hands.
Yeah, I mean, so I think we kind of agreed together it was best to walk away and start again. And I think, some of the words you used were, you should see this as like, this marriage should never have happened, basically. Like, this is the wrong guy, or like, this shouldn't have happened. And in so many ways it's difficult to take, because obviously I know him very well, and I know that like wonderful side to him. But this was definitely clearly an occasion where you were like, no, you're probably better off, divorcing him. and that's
over finding someone new.
And that is basically like what
that was my opinion.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that again. That was my opinion then at this time.
Yeah.
And you just called for advice, and that was the advice I gave you.
Yeah.
Based on what I know. So, and you decided to did you decide to divorce him?
Yeah. So,
or was it him?
So I did. Like, I knew, once I'd kind of found your program, I knew I needed to follow this, because it was for myself though, because I knew just leaving things like as they were as in he just disappeared, and I knew that I needed a bit more closure than that. And to be honest, I think that's what your program gave me, because in showing him like kindness and everything, kind of, he couldn't disappear off into the night. He kind of had to keep coming back a little bit. It wasn't coming home, but it was like he would actually then pop up every couple of months and want to know what I was doing, or wanted some kind of contact. And that was good for me, because it's so brutal if someone just walks fully out of your life like that. So it was kind of a reassurance that what we had wasn't in my imagination. Like it wasn't, it was meaningful and it was real. Like it didn't mean that we were going to get back together, but it allowed me to kind of get to that place of divorce without having like lots of baggage and lots of old like questions. Like I could see it very clearly through the lens of like, this is a major midlife crisis, and I can see that if I treat him in a certain way, I see that loving side of him again, and I see that and I needed to see that, because otherwise I think I was just left with way too many scars.
Yeah, you're right. So what happened next? So after you and I spoke, tell me what happened.
So
did you file for divorce right away? Did you give it some time? What happened?
So I think I joined, basically, I think we spoke briefly in the November maybe, and and then I saw him in December, and I just said to him, because I engaged with your program, I just said to him, like, look, I just want you to be happy. Like, I can see you, as you said, you're never coming home. Okay, that's fine. If you're going to go off and be happy, that's great. So do you want me to file for divorce? Because the thing is, I don't know if it's the same in the US. In the UK, you can only file for divorce if on certain grounds. So he didn't have grounds to divorce me, because you have to.
You were so nice.
No.
What are the grounds in the UK?
So either adultery, unreasonable behaviour, or desertion. So he.
Unreasonable behaviour? Could this have applied?
Yeah,
there?
so basically he had no grounds to divorce me, but I had grounds to divorce him. I could, on the grounds of unreasonable behaviour. So because like drinking, drugs, all that stuff that he was going off doing in the middle of the night, yeah, I could divorce him. So this was the added twist and irony to the whole process, that he had left, he'd done all these horrible things and like treated me really badly, and yet I was the one who was still kind of, I wanted a reconciliation, and I was trying to, patch things up, but I was the one who had to divorce him. So he agreed to it. Basically, he just said, yeah, I'm never coming back. Yeah, I guess, like, let's get divorced. It was interesting. He never drove the process though. He was like, no rush or anything like that. And I think it kind of ties into stuff that you've said, and like case studies that you've kind of researched, where deep down, I don't think they ever want a divorce. They just want to go out, and as you say, they just want to go out and feel good. They can't really make any decisions, and so it's almost like I had to make the decision. So I was like, okay, so you're never coming home, right? So I will go and file for divorce, and I did. And so then by the time I spoke to you in the February, everything was in process. And when you kind of confirmed, I think you should move on from this, it just meant that I continued to drive the process, because I don't know if it's similar in the US as well, like it takes a good year to get a divorce over here. So it just meant that we stayed in touch for the rare times that he would come and chat to me. I was always super nice, super friendly, always checked in with him, like, so are you happy now? And his responses at the beginning were always like, I think I'm on the way to happiness. And then
are you happy now?
Yeah.
Oh, what about now? Are you happy now?
Yeah.
There you go.
Literally. And then by maybe over this past summer, his responses are just like, no, I'm not happy, no. So I think he's even lost that your theory of like they're walking on the way to Oz. I think it's like, at the beginning he was really optimistic, like, yep, like I'm off, I'm never coming back, I'm on my way to happiness. And like by this point, like a year on, he's like, oh, this is getting tough, like I'm not seeing much happiness on this road. But the thing is, it's too late, because it's been a year, and then the divorce was finalised 6 weeks ago. So it's still very fresh, but I think it's probably the fact that it's sunk into him that the ink is now dry on the divorce paper, and now he's like, oh crap, what am I gonna do?
Okay, so I think this is awesome. So tell me, so since you guys started the divorce process, he was still poking his head around every couple months? And sorry if anyone sees me moving. I am sitting on a skateboard in my garage, and I have ice on me because I'm trying to stay cool, but my skateboard is sliding, so I'm sorry. So tell me about how he has, like, how did he stay in touch with you?
I mean,
during that year.
To be fair, like during the year, it was very, very rare that he poked his head back in, but it was always, it would sort of be tied to, he would get a vibe that I was doing something. So for example, I would change my WhatsApp picture, so I know that he would, it's like really small things, because we don't have kids and we don't have any like actual ties, but I could tell he was still checking up on me, because I would change my WhatsApp picture to something like, oh, I was hanging out with the girls, or I was traveling, or I was doing something fun, and I would get a message from him being like, hey, like, what, how are you, just some like random message. And it was useful though, because it gave me that opportunity to just be like, oh hey, like, yeah, everything's good, I hope you're doing well, and like, just to be that kind of friendly, like, nice person. So because I always I was just going to say, I always wanted him to be left in a position where he looks back on this, and it doesn't matter how many years time, but goes like, if someone asks him, so why, oh wow, you got a divorce, wow, your wife must have been such a bitch, like what happened, like what went down, what the hell is he going to say? Like, he's literally going to say nothing, because I literally did nothing. So I mean,
so glad.
Yeah,
so glad, so happy for you. So happy for you. That's exactly how to do it. That is your best revenge. The women who are mean and bitchy and just go angry,
yeah,
they lose, because he can walk away going, oh, thank God I left that.
Exactly.
Even though the reason she's acting that way is because he did what he did.
Yeah.
So if you can trump it and just stay in this zone that you did,
yeah,
you're actually making it hard for him to
hold on to those reasons. Yeah. I mean, it's honestly, obviously, it's so hard, and it takes so much discipline, because so much of the time, especially in the early days, you just want to scream, you want to just shout, you want to call him every name under the sun. It's just the levels of betrayal and disrespect. It's like you want to explode. But in my mind, I was like, no, think of the long game, because in the long game, we win. So I was just like, I'm gonna hang in there.
Right? I talk about it being a chess game, right? Chess is so, you cannot throw the pieces at your partner when it's not going well. Yeah. You have to wait and stay calm.
Yeah, exactly. But
okay,
yeah.
So yeah, go ahead. No, you first.
No, I was just gonna say, like, it's in a way it sounds brutal, but like, obviously, I think, yeah, I do still have a lot of love for him, because we do have that long history. And I think, like, one of your videos was probably my favourite one, is about like the mental hospital, and like perspective is everything. And I think what is difficult for someone like me, who I know that it is the best thing that we have got divorced, and I know that, and I'm in a great place now, I feel really happy, that when you do separate the person from like the depression and like the chaos they've created in their life, it is really sad, because him, like, deep down, he is a nice person. It's just he's got a lot of issues, and like when you actually apply that perspective and separate the two, it is really sad.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah,
it's horrible that you have to go through something like that. Okay, so now I get an email from you a couple days ago, and you said you need to chat with me. And this is why I brought you on today, because we're going to chat about it live.
Oh,
here.
wow, okay.
So I want to walk through what you should do right now, because tell everyone what happened in the past couple weeks.
Yeah, so basically just before we got the divorce, so in UK you get what's called a final decree, and that's just the bit where like everything is done, like all the paperwork is signed. So another tip that I had taken from you, and actually, yeah, it was a mixture. Well, anyway, so I have always been like quite close with his mum. So beforehand, like we were like, I was hanging out with her, we'd seen each other. She was like devastated by the whole thing, like tears, the whole lot. Anyway, she had like called him to say like, look, you can't get the final decree without like seeing me and all the rest of it. So I got this message from him saying like, let's meet up like before the divorce is final. We went for dinner, like everything perfectly civilized. This is how crazy it is. Like you were literally getting divorced from someone you can happily sit across a dinner table with and like have a nice evening. And then he was just in pieces. He was just crying, just saying sometimes he thinks the divorce is going to give us both a fresh start. Other times he wants the whole process to stop. He was just saying he misses me. He's worried that there's not going to be anyone as beautiful and loving as me. All of this stuff. Literally, I've not seen the boy in forever. And yeah, like he created all of this. And yeah, he says all of this stuff. But still, there's no like, okay, I've messed up. I want to fix everything. Like, I'm coming back. I've realised this is... No, nothing like that. Just all of this... more chaos. So my response was like, yeah, okay, that sounds really tough what you're dealing with. Like, what do you want me to do? And he was like, I don't know. So the fact that we're still in the I don't know limbo was really helpful to me, because then I was able to file for the final decree and just be like, I just want you to be happy. Here's your divorce. And then it's now 6 weeks on from then, where he's now messaging me again saying, oh crap, can we meet up? I miss you. And I'm just like, oh, it's very, very difficult, because it's going to have to be me who is just either just says no, like is done, or like we're divorced now, this, like, let's not talk anymore, or I'm going to have to see him, and then that just opens a can of worms, because he's just chaos. He's just Mr. Chaos. So, I don't know. This is what I need your advice about.
Okay, so now the question is, do we see him again? Because he's not sure about what he wants to do with his future.
Yeah, this is the question.
And talk about the possibility of you and him again.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, because I know people, I myself kind of went through that with my husband. You remember I told you?
Yeah.
So my husband kind of danced with me in the beginning, like he's not sure. But then there was a moment when he was sure. And then after we got married, 12 years later, he wasn't sure.
Yeah.
And then 16 married. So it's like, when you're a man and you want to be married to a woman, and you're going to have children together, and you're going to have to buy a house together, you want to be with somebody, especially at the beginning of a marriage, that says to you, I want this. This is what I want. You is what I want. And if he's still flipping and flopping, I don't know how that's going to change now.
Yeah.
And that's something you could say to him. Say, I think this is what I would say. Mm-hmm. Are you ready?
Go for it.
Because I thought about this since you texted me.
Go for it.
I would say, listen, I think you're amazing. I had so much fun with you. We went away to our other country. What did you call it? The Emirates? I can't say that word. What is it? The
United Arab Emirates.
Emirates. That's so hard for me to say. I had so much fun when we went there, and I just love hanging out with you. And we were such a great team. And then, there were some choices that you got confused about. I'm not confused. I am 100% certain that when I do something, even if I'm kind of doubting it, if I make that commitment, I'm just going to keep going, because I feel love is unconditional. And when you marry someone, you love them unconditionally. Things are not going to be perfect. It's going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to go up, it's going to go down. And when it starts to go up and down, it doesn't matter, because you're there together and you're going to be a part of that together. But as it goes up and down, if you look at your partner and say, oh, you're the reason we're going down, I got to go, I don't want that. I want to go down, because life is never perfect. But when we hit down, I want to know someone's not going anywhere. And I don't think that's you right now. I think you're amazing. and I love seeing you, and I would love to have, lunch or dinner every year or so. Maybe things will change. I don't know. I'm not happy about the divorce, but I kind of like my freedom.
That's such a good response.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Because he'll be like, I lost her, right? So you as a woman have a value, and your value goes up and down based on your behavior and what you show to a man. If you sleep with him on the first date, your value goes really low, right?
Yeah.
If you wait, 5-6 months to sleep with him, or till you're married, which is very difficult to do, but it's possible, your value is high. So you want to keep your value high. So he's on a roller coaster still. You're on the platform, safely, away from him. And stay there. And yeah, love to see you once in a while. I don't know what's going to happen, but yeah, you want to catch up with me every year, maybe every Christmas or so, I'll see you. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe we'll get back together again. But I'm looking for someone who knows what they want and they're 100% certain. And I don't know, maybe I'll meet him next week. Maybe you'll show up a year from now and you know what you want in your life. Yeah. But I would say that to him. I want to be with, it's all about wants and don't wants. I want this. I don't want this. I don't want a waffle. You don't want someone who's like, I love you today, tomorrow, yeah, love you, no, love you, no. It's, I love you. I might really be pissed off at you today. I might not like you very much, but you know what? I will always love you.
Yeah.
Unconditionally. So there's this phrase, I love you no matter what you do, I'm still going to love you. That's unconditional love.
Yeah.
And when someone's life isn't going so well and they turn to their spouse and they go, oh, you're the reason I'm not happy. Well, that's just stupid. And they have to really take a good look at themselves, but they can't. So they blame you. And he needs time to really look at himself. And you can't help him through that.
Yeah, exactly. I can't help him. It's really got to come from him. And I think that is a really good response because it's totally true. I can't live my life with somebody who's not ready for the roller coaster because it's just life, So that is actually a really good response. But I suppose, I guess my question to you then is like, so when, because I remember you saying like when your husband came home, it wasn't just plain sailing. You had like a good 2 years of him being like, oh, I'm gonna, whatever, I'm only here temporarily or whatever.
I only came home for the kids.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not here that long. Okay. Okay. Sure.
So would you say then you stuck it out for the kids or for, because...
So it's kind of like this. This is how I kind of base it on. When you're married to somebody and you start buying houses and properties and having investments and, companies and you start just, you build your kingdom.
Yeah.
And if your kingdom is really big and suddenly he wants to bail for a tiny little bank over to the left where there's no pennies in it, and he thinks that's going to be a great life, you're like going, wait, what? We have this kingdom with kids and, jousters or whatever is in the kingdom, and, dogs and cats and pets and stuff, and he's off to the right in a tiny little shack, usually it's disgusting, and rat infested or whatever is in there. He's in a low-life area, and he thinks that's better than your family? And so in the beginning, when you're just starting out, you have to really sum it up and say, is this worth the risk? Like, it's a risk analysis. This person is still not sure, and if I jump back in, I'm going to be on another roller coaster.
Yeah.
But the ride of a roller coaster is what it is. But you just want that person next to you to not get off.
Yeah, absolutely. I think.
And how are you sure?
Yeah.
You have to be sure. He has to convince you that he's sure he's not jumping off again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
But what did he say? What did he say? He said, I'm not sure if I will find someone as beautiful. What did he say?
Yeah, so this totally ties in with your whole mantra, because his precise words were, he's scared because he's not sure that he'll ever find someone as beautiful and loving as me again. And now that, it only comes from the fact that he knows how awfully he's behaved. He told me before, when we were getting the divorce, he was like, the guilt and shame of what he's done is eating him up. And so he was asking for forgiveness. And so I gave him the forgiveness. I said, look, I forgive you. You don't need to feel guilt or shame or whatever. I'm fine. Because I was putting on my like strong, it was brutal, but I was putting on my strong, hard, exterior to get through this. Yeah, like it's very much, he knows the extent of the awfulness that he has put me through, but because I've responded to it always like in a loving way, which I could only have done from understanding midlife crisis through your videos, otherwise I would never have been able to do it, that his response was, it stopped him in his tracks, and he said he was humbled by it because he just felt that he said I was the most wonderful person and the most loving person.
Amazing.
So, and I think, ultimately that's all we can really seek to do and be, to get out of this crisis without really bad scars.
Mm-hmm. Bravo, woman. See how you did that? You could have been just terrible and mean and hang out with the divorced ladies at the bar in the back corner yelling about your man, or you could have done what you did.
Yeah. And I'm so grateful I did, just because it gives me, what, if I hadn't done it, I would look back at my 20s always and be like, it would be totally scarred. It would be like, I spent all this time with this guy and I was married, and then I hated him, and then we hated each other, and then we tore each other apart, and we had a really bitter divorce and all the rest of it. Whereas now it's not like that at all. Like he, as I say, like he messages me being like, oh hey, like can we meet up, like, and also I just pity the next woman, because how would you feel dating someone who's like, my ex-wife is the most beautiful, wonderful person? Like,
right?
Imagine that.
He's like, we're gonna have her over for tea.
Yeah.
Sit there. I'm gonna call my ex-wife. Yeah, that's gonna be really hard.
Yeah.
He will. So what happens in this situation, just from my research, chances of him finding somebody as good or better than you is very, very small. So that should give you some, like,
exactly,
like whatever that's called. What's it called? Revenge, but it's not really revenge.
Yeah,
it's it is what it is, and that's because when you come out of this as a better person, what you went through, that just shows how wonderful your character is. And bravo to you, woman.
Thanks, Laurie. Yeah, I think that's your program is all about. Yeah, like just building your character and actually just doing things you never thought you could do. I never thought that I could be loving towards him while he is just freely off to like date whoever he wants and do whatever he wants with his life. But I think, again, like so many of your videos were so helpful. There's another one of my favorites where you talk about our perception of horse face is like so much better than reality. Like
horse face. Who's horse face? Tell everyone who horse face is. Not
the affair partner.
Horse face is the affair.
But the
partner.
weird thing is, actually in my case, there wasn't any horse face, because when he moved out, he went to stay with his brother, and I'm like very close with his family. So he didn't even have a girl. He was just like getting 2 bottles of wine a night and sitting at home on his own, being depressed. So me imagining him, he's going to go out to all these parties and meet all these girls, and everyone's going to think he's amazing and he's going to be having the best time. No, I imagine way more like than it actually was. He was just sitting on his own, in his own thoughts, miserable, drinking, trying to figure out like, how he's going to find happiness. And he didn't find any happiness, and that was the end of the story.
Is he happy now?
So
is he happy now?
Well, I asked him 6 weeks ago, just before the divorce, and he said no. No, I'm not happy, and that was the end of that conversation. Because
so if next time you chat with him, just say that concerns me.
Yeah,
I'm happy. I've always been happy. When you said you weren't happy because of me, I was puzzled, because I am happy.
Yeah.
So but when a partner says, I'm not happy, the other partner immediately thinks it's their fault. I have to make him happy. You can't.
Yeah.
So when he says he's not happy, you just say, "Oh God, I'm so sorry. That must be terrible not to be happy."
Yeah, but I think that's
got
what,
nothing to do with
I think
it.
that's what this whole year has been about. Him realizing and untangling the fact that, yeah, him being unhappy is nothing to do with me. But it's taken him a long time to figure it out. But as I say, like 6 weeks ago, actually, we did touch on that because I said, I did your apology thing, and I was like, I basically said, look, I'm just so sorry for anything I did that like that put you in this position or made you really sad and blah blah blah, because I know like when you left, you said that I was the reason you were drinking loads and you couldn't sleep at night and blah blah blah, and then he was like, he just cried and he just said, oh, I'm sorry, I massively take that back, like I know that it wasn't you, because it's taken him a year of then me not being there, and then he's probably still drinking and still not sleeping at night. Then he's like, oh,
it's her fault.
yeah, and now he's like, oh crap, it actually can't be her, because but the thing is, I don't think he said that to hurt me. He said it because he really believed it, and that's kind of where the sad part of this whole thing kicks in, because as you say, like again in one of your videos, like he didn't do this to me. He didn't wake up one day and be like, right, I'm gonna punish you and I'm gonna screw with your life. He genuinely believed all of these things. Like when he walked out of the door, he thought like, oh yeah, the marriage is bringing me down, like, and that's really sad. It's taken him so long to realise, oh look, she's over there really happy, and like I changed my WhatsApp picture and I'm out having fun, and he's like, oh but hold on, I thought she was like this barrel of misery, and clearly she's having fun. I'm sat over here really sad. Wow, maybe she wasn't the problem. And sadly, it takes them a long time to figure that out.
So sad. But it's not you, is it?
Yeah, that's the thing.
So I want to keep in touch with you because I want to make sure that I know what you're doing. So whether I put it on here and we talk again, or whether I write it up on my website, thewifeexpert.com, I want to stay in touch with you to see where the story goes.
Yeah, for sure. I'll keep you posted.
So curious. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? Like where's your heart right now? Because there's nothing wrong with going, you know what? You guys could get married again and have 5 kids. And he could have a stable job and be a hell of a dad. And a hell of a husband. That could happen.
But in your research, the likelihood is that it will all just fall apart again if we ever attempted that.
If he's not secure, does he have a dad and mom who are married?
So this is the weirdest part of it, because yeah, his mum and dad are still together. Like they got together in their early 20s, they're now 60, still together. His grandparents on both sides, both in their 80s, both sides still together. This is the weird thing, like there's not any actual like trauma for him. He had like a very comfortable upbringing. Like he's not got, and this was the big irony actually when he walked out the door, because he had this really well paid job. Obviously he had me who loved him to pieces. Like we still have a dog. It was a puppy at the time, but we were back like amongst all of our family. Everything was like perfect from anyone would think, and yet no, that was when he decided to self-sabotage his entire life.
Does he still have a good job?
So he still has the job, but he hates the job. But he hates everything. So he's not happy with anything.
Wow. Yeah, so I would watch that.
Yeah.
I would make sure when he realizes that and starts getting self-help books and starts understanding his happiness, maybe he goes and finds a church.
Yeah.
And, starts getting in a community and finding joy with himself in his own heart. I would just stay in touch with him, because if he can find that, he's got the support system.
Absolutely.
If he's got all that family and you're right here, maybe it's like, hey, yeah, let's hang out more. You want to go to church next Friday?
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to go here and just see what happens?
Yeah, I would.
I mean, yeah.
In my heart of hearts, I would love that, because, as I say, like, he's the boy I fell in love with when I was like 21. So that would be amazing. But I want to be realistic, because I cannot go through a year like the one I've just been through. Like the levels of pain, like them, like the girls on your on your video classes know the levels of pain, and I cannot be doing that a second time. So
Yeah. So just so we're clear, remember I told you back in the day,
Yeah.
and I'll tell everyone else, when my husband and I were dating, after a year and a half, he decided to do just what your husband did, but we weren't married, and he ran off for a year, and he came back and said, I don't know, but I think maybe. And I was wondering, going, do I date him again or not? Do I date him again or not? And I decided, what the heck, why not? And it seemed like a good idea.
Yeah.
Stable parents, stable family, and 14 years after we get married, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is what I want.
Yeah.
So, but if I knew what you know now,
Yeah.
and was doing it again, I would approach it completely different.
That's, yeah.
And hopefully you'll be able to do that.
Yeah, I hope so. You know what
'Cause-
the scary thing though is, Laurie, is that there's a little part of me, and this sounds really bad, but it's almost like better the devil you know, because when having gone through this, I'm like, I'm totally aware of how awful this could get with him, but I don't know what the hell is out there. Like, you meet a new guy, everything's seemingly great, parents stable. I just have, my trust levels are at nil, because it's just, how do you know? So
You don't.
that is the thing. So like, that's the only bit that makes me
Right.
stumped,
Yes,
Because-
yes, you're absolutely right. Because dating again is like you're finding someone new. Go, oh well, he seems good, and then you get to know him. You're like, oh,
exactly.
yeah, I don't know if I like
And then
that.
you start to see the backyard. So
Can I say shit? The shit in the backyard. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
It's that video, which is another really good one, because like, obviously, as like, everyone has their pros and cons, and like, obviously this is a whole another level of cons, like what we've been through this past year, but yeah, like, obviously there's no guarantees in life, and I think all we can do is, those of like us who have faith, it's just, please God, just put me where you want me to be. And like and like, that's the other thing about my husband, my ex-husband. He has no faith, like, so he when he's lost, like, now he's very, very lost. And so there are two sides to this. One side, like, that you said, like, surely I want to spend my life with somebody who I can level with on that, someone who can join me in my faith. There's another side to it which makes me think maybe I was meant to be in my ex-husband's life as some kind of witness to him on a faith level, because there's definitely been things, I get a vibe from him that he is more interested or more leaning towards getting into faith in some way. And I think if that was the whole purpose, I think there's purpose in all of our pain, and I think if that was the purpose of my first marriage, then so be it, and I accept that, and like, I guess I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, who knows,
Yeah.
right? And maybe you're supposed to be on this weird journey with him to see, because the greatest thing about you being divorced is you can go, hey, this book is great, read this
Yeah.
book. Hey, and he won't go,
Yeah, exactly.
because it's, you're trying to give me, stuff from you.
Yeah.
It's more, he will accept stuff from you because you are not his wife.
Exactly.
You are coming from a friend.
Exactly.
Of, hey, read this. Hey, try this. Hey, come to this church with me.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe we're just going to end up being like old good friends, basically, and that's totally fine with me.
And old good friends have a lot of when you become best friends, stuff just starts to fall together.
Yeah, but then I need to be careful, because I don't want to, as you said, like, it's probably not the best thing for me to fall back into a relationship there. I think I
don't know. It depends. If he shows you, he figures out what he did wrong.
Yeah.
And he clearly says, you know what, I really like myself. I didn't before, but I do now. I do believe people can change. And by you role modeling, like, you know what, I really like myself. Here's why.
Yeah.
And doing that kind of stuff and being with him, he will be able to pick up those things from you.
Yeah.
That's why old people look alike.
Yeah.
Because they do the same thing.
Yeah.
They mirror each other, good or bad. Sometimes they go in the bad way, sometimes they go in the good way. I'm suggesting people grow together in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So I guess, like, maybe I just keep an open mind.
Always.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You could get hit by a Laurie tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a truck. We all could get hit by a truck. You don't know what's going to happen. So just live your best life every day.
Yeah.
Right? And just be nice and kind, and you never know what's going to walk through the door. But I can't wait to hear what happens next.
Okay. I will
So you have
definitely
to stay
keep
in
you
touch with me,
posted.
okay?
Yeah. But I'm going to
Okay.
also take your advice on like how to respond. Basically to say,
Good.
look, I need somebody who's there for the ups and downs of the roller coaster. So, yeah.
And isn't going to jump
And
off
isn't going to jump off.
when the times get tough. It's called unconditional love.
Yeah.
Look it up, write the definition down, and say, here it is.
Yeah.
That's what your dad does to your mom. That's what your mom does to your dad.
Yeah.
It's just, it means you have a lot of stuff in your closet that's yucky, and I can see it.
Yeah.
I see the bad parts of you, and guess what? I still accept you, and I still love you anyway.
Yeah. Exactly.
That is what everyone wants.
Yeah. And that's what, and
But it's
honestly,
really
that's
hard
why he's
for-
come back, because basically he couldn't have shown me much worse than he showed me this year. Like, you know, like I've seen it all. It's horrendous. And yet I'm still loving and kind to him. So I think it's like, that's the only reason he's like still around. But I would also say that is also the fundamental problem, because he doesn't have unconditional love for himself. And so
Right.
there's no way he's going to show it to me, because he
Right.
doesn't, there's no way. He's even said it himself. Like, he knows he's got many insecurities and many scars, and he definitely has a problem with, loving himself, and he has no happiness within himself. So,
Isn't that sad?
yeah, it's so sad.
It's so sad.
It's so sad.
Because you don't sound like you're like that at all.
No, but you know, I don't. But where does that come from? I don't know.
I don't know.
It's
I don't know.
bizarre.
I really don't know. I don't know how you grow it. I don't know how you get. I talk to a lot of people with anxiety,
Yeah.
especially young teenagers, to help them kind of cross that hump.
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes from they don't love themselves.
Yeah.
They don't trust themselves. And what a painful thing to grow up into.
Yeah.
But it happens somewhere.
Yeah.
So anyway, but you're not that way. I don't see it. And that's really all that matter right now. But Mrs. Left, I don't want to call you by your real name. Blow your cover. Mrs. Left, you to me will always be Mrs. Right.
Oh, thanks, Laurie.
How's that? All right, honey. Thank you so
You're
much.
more than welcome. Thank you. I'm definitely,
We'll follow up again, and we'll add that on to this later.
We definitely will.
Stay in touch.
Yes, we'll do.
Okay.
You take care of yourself.
Great. Thanks, honey.
Chat soon. Bye, Laurie.
Okay, bye. That was amazing. Mrs. Left was absolutely wonderful. I am so grateful for her, and I'm so grateful to you guys. If anyone has anyone who wants to be interviewed on my show, has a story to tell, please direct them to me at thewifeexpert.com. I also have another website called thelifeexpert.com that you can wander in and read some stuff over there. But my goal is to keep people married. So if you like this episode and feel that someone needs to hear it, send it to them, please. This is what I need to get this show out there. And by you referring me to other people, it just makes marriages stay together and children be part of a really good family. So anyway, I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you next time.